Hey everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and this time I'm playing in the Tier 5 French heavy tank. It is the BDR G1 B. Now this is a vehicle that I've never featured on the channel before. Now why are you featuring it today? Well, it's because I totally forgot that I picked up this skin, this Mordian Warhammer 40,000 skin, if you hadn't guessed already from the title of this video. And yeah, I'll probably say that this was probably the worst money I've ever spent in World of Tanks. Now when you think about it, you spend money on some frivolous things in World of Tanks, right? But none so frivolous as this vehicle, at least for me. This is a skin for a Tier 5 French heavy tank, which I've barely ever played once I managed to unlock the ARL 44. And it doesn't exactly make the tank premium, and it's not even a premium tank. Yeah, and it still cost, I think, £6-7, like €8-9, whatever it does. Yeah, Games Workshop do make a lot of money off their miniatures, and when they team up with Wargaming, it seems like they make a lot of money off selling skins like this. Now, there's no doubt that the vehicle looks good. I personally think that it looks completely out of place in the game, but I guess that's why you have that checkbox, I think, in the settings here, so you can uncheck the historical camo around here, right? So hide non-historical elements. So if you don't want to see it, you don't have to. But there's also a bit of a danger there, because some of the camouflages and emblems and just the styles they put into the game, they're not historical, but they're pretty close to being historical. And then if you just check that box, kind of get rid of things like this, which you may feel fits more into the game than the football game mode, or maybe you get rid of some of the non-historical camos that you get some of the event rewards. So it's a bit of a shame that there's like a blanket remove all the features, considering that some of them, at least in my opinion, I mean, I guess it's like Marmite in a way. I despise the football camouflages. I think they look absolutely horrible, like the orange, the bright greens and everything. For me it doesn't really fit into the game. I think this fits more. But then again, I know a lot of people really do enjoy the football camo, so who am I to say? But yeah, it's a bit of a shame there. But the BDR, I think it's a bit of a hidden gem. I never really played this vehicle after I unlocked the ARL, but since I got the skin on it, I gave it a few goes, and I can tell you, this thing's a bit of a beast. It's got a 90mm main armament, and while it might not have the best penetration at 135 on its standard rounds, that's still not bad for Tier 5, right? And this 90mm packs 240 alpha damage, which is just gigantic. I'm very, very, very happy when I have that on a Tier 6 medium, like the Tier 6 Italian, and I think also the new Polish Tier 6 is going to pack that as well. That feels great on that Tier 6 Italian tank, but it just feels even better down to Tier 5 on the BDR. It's utterly monstrous. And as we can see, I got hit there by the enemy BDR, and I basically lose over a third of my hit points to a single shot. And when you're in a matchup like this, where against all Tier 5 opponents, we are literally breaking apart vehicles in 2 shells. And when we're considering that we've got a rate of fire of just under 7 rounds a minute that we're going to boost up with things like a gun rammer and hopefully some crew skills on this vehicle, this thing's actually got tremendous damage per minute for such a high alpha gun at a low tier. In fact, this thing's pretty much got higher DPM than the T-34, you know, that Tier 8 American premium heavy tank at Tier 8, but this is at Tier 5. And it's also got some armor to go with it. It's got 60mm at the front, 40 at the side. While the turret isn't great, it still can survive high explosive rounds with 80 at the front and 70 on this side of the turret. These kind of low-tier French heavies are very resilient from an all-purpose kind of shell. Now the enemy BDR looks like he was trying to pick me off at the end of the game there, but luckily he drove forward, so his gun was blocked by, I think, the rubble through the doorway. We were able to get a shot into his side armor, so great result there, and picked up 4 kills as we waltz our way through the streets of Runeberg. So apart from obviously the great things that I've talked about there, the mobility isn't exactly terrible at 30 kilometers an hour with a power to weight ratio of just under 12. It's not horrific. It's not like you're playing a Matilda Black Prince, for example. And the gun handling with .38 accuracy, but awful dispersion and 2.5 seconds aim time isn't half bad as well for such a gigantic gun. It really does feel just tremendous to have that 240 alpha. When you think about it, when you're playing a KV-2, which has got an absolutely horrific rate of fire, if you do manage to penetrate the enemy tank, they do die, right? But it's not that often that you're going to be penetrating vehicles, especially in a poor matchup, right? And when you don't penetrate them, you're probably only doing about 300, at most 400 damage to the enemy tank. Well, this thing's doing half of that, but the rate of fire is just so much better that it kind of makes up for it. And I think the BDR, as I mentioned, it is a hidden gem in World of Tanks. And if you haven't tried one out yourself, irrelevant if you have this overpriced Mordian skin, irrelevant of how cool it looks, it might be worth going back into the BDR to give it a go. So the Matilda 4 on the enemy team looks like he was trying to smash the horrible kind of viewport cupola kind of thing on top of this tank. It's absolutely horrific. But yeah, there you go, for the Emperor indeed, right, with the insignia of, I guess, the Space Marines up on the top of the vehicle flying high. So, not a bad game so far for the BDR. We're bouncing some premium rounds there from the Matilda 4 on the enemy team. And right now, considering we went back to base to clean up the cap circle, which I thought was the most important thing to do right now, now we can focus our advance towards the enemy base in this neck and neck game. Well, at least we're up by a tank, but how long are we going to be up for a tank considering they're just driving sort of out into the open to a gun line, including some sneaky tanks on the enemy team in the form of the IKV-103. So view range wise, that's where this vehicle is actually really horrific. It only has 320 meters view range, and so definitely take not coated optics, definitely take binoculars on this tank. Irrelevant of how skilled your crew are, I don't think coated optics is going to be for you. Now, with binoculars, you can get up to a fairly decent range, but yeah, this vehicle still feels as if it's more of a short to mid-range brawler. And it just doesn't really feel like a true heavy because of the shape of the tank, and I seem to play this thing a bit more like a medium tank with the gun handling, and it seems to work out well for me. And I'm not claiming that the gun handling is absolutely incredible, but it's far from terrible. Okay, so P-43 has been spotted. Now we know where that Tier 5 Italian vehicle is. We're going to push forwards a little bit here, and as you can see, I always stop, enter the bush, wait for my binoculars to activate, and then I think about moving to the next position. Well, at least maybe in a second I will. Now, of course, that's what you should do when you're making these slow advances, when you're doing the kind of the passive scout approach. Now, if I was using coated optics, my view range wouldn't be nearly so good. It would be 15% less because they do 10 instead of 25%, right? But it'd be more of the fact that I could just keep bumping into the bush, spotting out, pulling back. But when you're in a heavy tank like this, especially at low tiers, I think binoculars do very well. One thing that I remember is that back in the day, I used to take binoculars on pretty much all of my heavy tanks, because I felt like coated optics, yeah, they're great, but I didn't have very good crews in all of them, and there's no way I was using premium consumables back in the day when I was a free-to-play player, or alternatively when I actually needed to spend my credits on purchasing vehicles in the game, which is not the case now. Alright, so that AKV shuts down the P-43, and it looks like my Churchill 1 is about to go and pressure the Matilda Black Prince on the enemy team. That's the first ever British tank in the game, and we put a round right through the side of its turret. The Matilda Black Prince lurches backwards, as if to say, please don't hit me again, Frenchie, but the Frenchie says, goodbye. Goodbye, Brit. Well, that's something that I'm not usually saying. I usually say from the other perspective. But okay, today... je suis Monsieur QuickyBaby. Bonjour, ça va? Yeah, okay, now I have exhausted my French. We're going to have to get back into the English commentary here. Alright, so it's 2 versus 2. Me and a Churchill 1 versus an IKV-103B and an SU-122A. So right now it's just about providing a crossfire. I don't want the Churchill to get spotted right now. I kind of want to just advance slowly along here. I'm worried that I'm spotted. I don't think I have 6th sense in this tank, so that's a big concern. I actually want the Churchill to advance right now because I'm very worried about the IKV just sitting here and getting some shots across. But now I see that the Churchill is chilling. I'm going to just do that slow-moving advance that I talked about when you got binoculars. Go into the bush, wait for your binoculars to activate. Okay, you haven't spotted anything. And then go to the next bush, wait for your binoculars to activate. Okay, are we going to spot anything this time? No, not quite. Okay, but this position, I feel like I've got a very good shot down on the enemy team, so I've only got one of 2 options now. 1, I continue to sit here. 2, I could probably go into this bush here and extend my view range a little bit more. But right now I'm thinking maybe the IKV or the SU will attack because we've got 5 minutes and 50 seconds left on the game. Alright, well, I feel like I've waited for them to attack for long enough, so I'm just going to slowly go around this corner, but I'm very concerned. Without 6th sense, it just feels like I'm edging into the bush. Alright, I spot the SU, I pull back behind the bush, but it doesn't look like I pull back quite enough behind the bush there. Due to the excellent alpha of this vehicle, we shut down the Tier 5 Soviet self-propelled gun in a single shot, much to the satisfaction of our ELC AMX, who seems to be like nice. An IKEA tank was bush camping. Okay, I'm already liking this ELC AMX on my team. All right, so the IKV 103 is now advancing towards my Churchill, and I'm looking for the shot. Where's the shot? No, I didn't quite give enough lead there, and the shell just whizzes in front of the IKV as they were pulling back, and now the IKV's back in cover behind the monolith or this obelisk or whatever it is, some kind of something or other, pillar, probably one of those two things, and that means that I don't get to finish off the IKV, and now I'm in a 1 versus 1 situation. But look at the Churchill. The Churchill has given me some words of motivation. Finish him. Okay, great. I will. Okay, I'll finish him. I'll finish the IKV. All right, so I'm going to communicate with my team a little bit more. I ask my team what ammunition the IKV 103 is using, because if he's using armor piercing, then I can side scrape against the tank. However, if he's using heat, I can still side scrape, but I want to do so at a much greater angle. However, if he's firing high explosive rounds, I really don't want to side scrape against that, because you can't side scrape against that. Sure, you can try and bait the shot onto the thicker part of your armor and hope that your tracks are going to absorb much more of the punishment, but you can't side scrape against HE rounds, especially when you're on 278 hit points. I guess I could, and then maybe I can use my repair kit to get my tracks back on and then punish him before he reloads. Those are my two options right now. However, we're just going to go for the slow approach. You see, I'm actually trying to look to see where he's facing right now. He's facing me. The AMX says he was firing HE. That's good knowledge now. And you'll see that I'm actually going to reload a high explosive round, because while I might not be able to side scrape against his HE rounds, what I might be able to do against the IKV is actually splash him right now. And you'll see, there you go, right through the track. Didn't give him an opportunity to shoot the side of my hull, and that's where having a turret is immensely advantageous. But also, just the fact that I was kind of like wedging my inside track in there on that position, that gave me an advantage here as well, because obviously if he was trying to fire HE and he can't see the front of my track, then he's going to have to try and hit the back, and I'm easily able to get his right-hand track that was just sticking out very nicely for me there. Perfect takedown of the IKV safely at the end of the game to pick up our 7th kill and take down a win for our team. So not a bad result here for the BDR. We pick up an ace tanker, a high caliber for dealing the most damage, and a top gun for those 7 kills. 1,217 base experience. Don't think I fired any premium rounds this game as well, so a cool 36,000 credits profit, although this was in a nice matchup. And remember that fairly mediocre penetration of the BDR, as I've highlighted here, 135mm, will mean that you're probably dabbing the 2 key to get 175, and that's still not enough to contest the front of many tier 7 tanks. But then again, well, you can't have it all right, and that's still decent penetration for a tier 5 vehicle. And so the BDR G1 B, definitely a hidden gem that I had to waste a load of money on to give another go. But you know what for the Emperor, right? Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed this video today. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up, but if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And if you're watching this video as it's released, it's time for another World of Tanks Tech Tree Showcase on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And this week, 516 of you voted, and the winner is the good old British Centurion Action 10, which barely squeaked past the M48 A1 pattern. So come along right now as I start at tier 1 and work my way up towards the tier 10 British medium tank, so you can see if it's a line that's worth grinding, or alternatively, if you already have the tanks, maybe pick up a few tips and tricks along the way. And yeah, I'm going to play one of my favorite vehicles in the game, the Comet, during this Tech Tree Showcase. I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm also looking forward to seeing as many of you as possible right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thanks you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.